Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to the next reaction video. I'm taking a look at what happened to B units from AmtrakGuy365. Yeah, I know I'm reacting to back-to-back videos from Amtrak Guy. I'm kind of doing this out of necessity since this video popped up in my feed, and at the same time I realized that I was not subbed to him beforehand. I was like, what the hell was wrong with me? So went ahead and did that. So, without further ado, enough chit-chat, let's get started.
Upon the introduction of the diesel locomotive to 1930s American railroads, builders were eager to make an impression and a deal. Throw out your smelly and dirty steam engines and get this impression and a deal. Throw out your smelly and dirty steam engines and get
R.I.P. Thomas.
the shiny new streamliner that goes really fast. Increased versatility and lower operating costs were just some selling points of the diesel. If a train needed more power, just slap on a B unit.
Couple on as many as you want. Hook up the MU cables for equal power distribution, and it'll still be cheaper in the long run than a steam locomotive.
Okay.
So said the diesel salesman. B units were to be paired with...
I don't know what that is, but okay.
Locomotive.
So said the diesel salesman. B units were to be paired with an A unit. The A unit hosted the cab, controls, and other essentials, while the B unit acted as a booster, maintaining only the prime mover and traction motors to provide extra horsepower.
At the same time, there's also slugs. I forgot their name for a second. There are those slugs that are those slug units that are kind of like, they're essentially like B units as well, except unlike B units, they don't have prime movers. And they basically function to give additional tractive effort when hooked up to a mother unit, or a mate, as sometimes called. But yeah, railroad slugs are pretty damn interesting. Like I said, they're kind of like B units of their own, but they have their differences. You usually only see them in doing yard work and such.
All while complementing the smooth, streamlined look. The first boosters were built in 1937 for the electromotive...
Sorry, I can't really tell sometimes how good my volume is or not.
Streamlined look. The first boosters were built in 1937 for the Electromotive Corporation's EA, with a combined AB set producing 3,600 horsepower. After its success, the B unit's career expanded to the FT model in 1939, where it really took off. A 5,400 horsepower ABBA set toured the country, impressing the railroads and got them on board with diesel power.
Yep.
Knowing that this was the future, all manner of builders followed suit with the concept. The American Locomotive Company, Baldwin, Fairbanks Morse, and Canada's Montreal Locomotive. This was the future.
Oh, yeah, with
all manner of builders followed suit with the concept. The American Locomotive Company, Baldwin.
I forgot Baldwin had B units as well, with the shark nose units. Like, how could I forget?
Fairbanks Morse and Canada's Montreal Locomotive Works all had their own designs. Boosters nullified the need for extra crew members as required by steam helpers, much to the dismay of the unions, and with an A unit at either end, there was no need to turn the whole lash-up around, as the engineer could simply just swap cabs. Their popularity soared, and B units became a staple of most passenger and freight trains across the US and Canada. Remember how I said B units needed an A to move? Well, take a look at this. It's the EMC AB6, a self-propelled E6 B unit. The Rock Island had two built for the Rocky Mountain Rocket Service in 1940. The train...
Now, hold on. I actually don't remember hearing about these things, but they look cool, I must say. At first, I was going to say they look like those doodlebug things, but I guess these are different.
Train split at Lyman, Colorado, and they wanted the second engine to blend in with the streamlining until it ran the Lyman to Colorado Springs section. From 1965 to 74, they were reassigned to Chicago commuter service, and then scrapped. In the 1960s, diesels were becoming more powerful, road switchers were on the rise, and competition was ramping up. The second generation of diesel power had begun, but the era of the B unit was fading away. After Alco's RS models and EMD's GP and SD series showcased the benefits of hood units, railroads now desired flexibility in their engines. Their usefulness in all types of jobs, walkways on either side, and the ability for crews to actually see behind them made these new units more favorable than the old cowl style. On top of that, boosters were an extra thing to switch, could only be used with an A unit, and second-gen diesel horsepower was eclipsing that of an A-B pair. B units were still produced, but not nearly to the degree of their predecessors. Instead of thousands or hundreds built, there were often fewer than 50. The GP30, SD24, M420, and B30-7 were some of the few models that had boosters. With all the surplus Bs lying around, some railroads opted to convert them for other purposes.
Oh yeah, they did in fact. Railroads did in fact rebuild a bunch of units, like the SD45-2Bs. Those lasted a pretty long time under BNSF. I don't know how much longer the BN ones exactly lasted, but I'm sure it was a fair little while. But like I said, the ones from Santa Fe, including the GP60Bs, lasted a pretty long time. As a matter of fact, I think they still have most of the GP60Bs. Usually they're in and out of storage and such. And I've heard that at least one of them was actually rebuilt with a cab. And if anyone can confirm that to me, please let me know down below.
In the 1970s, Amtrak turned some of their inherited units into head-end power and steam generator cars. They sold 6 to the Chicago and Northwestern, who then added a cabin control stand for use in Chicago commuter service.
What the hell? I've never seen that thing before. But yeah, I can tell this was once a B unit. I mean, it's almost like they tried creating their own F40PH in a way with the look, except the nose. Really bulky and ugly.
Classified as E9BA, they came to be known as the Crandall Cab, named after Superintendent of Motive Power Milton H. Crandall, brainchild of the project. Come the 1980s and 90s, B units were even fewer and far between, with a few exceptions. Burlington Northern, Canadian National, Canadian Pacific, and Santa Fe had converted a decent lot of locomotives into booster status.
I mean, I didn't know about those
with a few exceptions. Burlington Northern, Canadian.
I didn't know about the CN units, but I know about the XNS ones that CP got. The high hoods they eventually turned into B units.
National, Canadian Pacific, and Santa Fe had converted a decent lot of locomotives into booster status, while other lines reworked existing Bs for specialized jobs. Despite being on the decline, boosters had one last hurrah on the GP60M was introduced in 1990 to power hotshot freights, with 23 B units built in 91. And just like the old days, they could be seen running around with any number of freight trains. Meanwhile, EMD and GE's horsepower race was pushing power levels to an extreme, and boosters weren't exactly necessary for mainline trains anymore.
Sadly.
They were pretty much gone by the late 90s and 2000s, but a decent handful survive today in local and switching service, predominantly on BNSF. Otherwise, they can be found on display at museums or short lines and excursion trains that keep their motors moving.
Yeah, well, in short, as time has gone on, with locomotives getting increasingly more powerful, B units are just not needed anymore. I mean, it's sad, I know, but it just got to that point where they were needed. Maybe one day they'll be brought back if there's really that much of a power struggle. Although I wonder more on the topic of what if it gets to a point where railroads retire just about every bit of 4-axle power they've got. Like, they cannot rely on six-axle power for switching and locals all the time. I mean, I'm sure it'll get more costly and such, but Like all that bigger power is not really suitable for just small local jobs. I mean, even the B40-8Ws at 4,000 horsepower, they're a little too powerful to be doing the kind of work that they've been doing on locals and such when they were originally used for hotshot intermodals back in the day. Maybe the same thing for the GP60Ms. I mean, forgive me if I'm not making much sense with what I'm trying to get out there, but I'm honestly a little concerned about what'll happen when most, if not all, 4-axle power is ultimately retired in the future. Would EMD and GE have to eventually go back to producing 4-axle power? Like, I don't know, guys. I'm not an expert in this kind of stuff, but at the same time, I wonder a little too much sometimes.
Australia briefly experimented with boosters in the 90s and 2000s, but they've all since been stored away. The B unit was developed at a time when the diesel wasn't quite powerful enough on its own, and boosters were seen as an economical way for railroads to customize how much power they needed. However, the advent of versatile road switchers outweighed the cheaper cost of boosters, and thus their popularity began to wane. While they're no longer a staple of freight and passenger trains, you can still find them hanging around today, and potentially still kicking it with an A unit on a local freight or in the yard.
Yeah.
Thank you to my channel members.
Oh, that was really cool, I must admit. But yeah, everybody, that's going to do it for the reaction. Let me know what you think down below. Original video is in the description down below. Take care, y'all, and have a good day.